CBS News today. The light above Incheon International Airport this afternoon was sharp and golden, the kind of sunlight that paints the polished floors in 1,000 reflections. It was around 2:40 p.m. when the air suddenly shifted, as if a silent signal had been passed among those waiting at the arrival gate. The soft hum of travelers rolling their suitcases turned into murmurs, and then into waves of gasps that carried a single name. Jungkook. No announcement had been made. No schedule was shared with fans, and yet, as if drawn by instinct, dozens of army members had gathered around Gate D, holding their phones ready. The moment his figure appeared beyond the frosted glass door, the space seemed to contract, the afternoon suddenly brighter. Jungkook, dressed in black trousers, a beige bomber jacket, and a plain white shirt, walked with his head slightly lowered, his mask covering half his face, yet there was no mistaking that posture, that quiet rhythm that the world had come to recognize. People whispered in disbelief. "He's back?" someone said. "From where?" another asked, holding her phone so tightly that her hands trembled. The security staff had already moved to form a protective corridor, but Jungkook's pace remained steady, unhurried, almost calm. There was no entourage, just one assistant trailing a few steps behind, holding a small black duffel bag that looked too light for someone returning from overseas. Cameras clicked relentlessly. The sound was relentless but restrained, as if even the press understood the moment was not to be intruded upon too loudly. Jungkook gave a small nod, polite, acknowledging but distant. His eyes flicked toward the group of fans holding banners, and for a brief second, a small wave of his hand, barely visible, drew a cheer that rippled through the terminal. The question, however, lingered heavily in the air. Where had he come from? There had been no official report of Jungkook's overseas schedule this week. His last known public appearance was a week ago in Seoul, during a brief brand shoot for a luxury campaign, after which there was silence. No social media updates, no sightings, nothing. Even fan accounts that usually track his movements had gone unusually quiet. Now, his sudden return sparked more questions than answers. Reporters tried to find a clue. Some speculated that Jungkook had returned from Japan, citing whispers from flight attendants about a late morning arrival from Tokyo Haneda. Others suggested Europe, recalling his recent ties with a fashion brand headquartered in Paris. Yet no one could confirm. There was no official manifest under his name, and HYB, as expected, had not released a statement. The mystery only deepened the fascination that as Jungkook made his way toward the exit, the sunlight from the automatic glass doors fell directly on his face. For a moment he paused, not dramatically, not intentionally, but as if allowing himself a single breath before stepping into the public chaos outside. His expression was unreadable. Calm maybe, but there was a subtle fatigue in the way his shoulders sloped. Still, even in that quiet weariness there was grace, the kind that only someone used to living under constant light could carry. "Welcome back, Jungkook," a voice shouted from behind the line of barriers. It was one of the fans, young and teary-eyed, holding a banner that said, "We missed you." Jungkook turned his head slightly, eyes softening, and though his lips were hidden behind the mask, the crinkle at the corner of his eyes said everything. He raised his hand again, this time more clearly, a small wave that broke the invisible tension. The crowd melted into applause outside. The November air carried a cool breeze, tinged with the faint scent of coffee from the nearby cafe and jet fuel from the runways. As Jungkook stepped out, the flashes intensified. A sleek black van was already waiting, its tinted windows reflecting the scene like a moving mirror. His assistant moved ahead to open the door, but Jungkook hesitated for a second, looking up at the clear sky as if measuring time. As if he wasn't entirely ready to leave just yet. It was this small gesture that caught everyone's attention. He stood there, still and thoughtful, his hand brushing the strap of his bag. Something about the moment felt unscripted, too real, too human. And that perhaps was what made it so hauntingly beautiful. The idol who had spent years mastering the art of stage perfection now seemed lost in a second of honest stillness. Within hours, social media erupted. The hashtag Jungkook at Incheon trended worldwide. Photos and videos filled the timelines, every angle, every blink, every second analyzed. Some fans pointed out the details of his outfit, others tried to decode the ring on his right hand, while a few noticed the faint tan line around his wrist as if he had recently been somewhere warm, perhaps a tropical place far from Korea's cooling November air. Speculations exploded. Was he filming something overseas? Was it a personal trip? A collaboration? Theories multiplied faster than facts. But amidst all the noise, one image stood out. A still shot of Jungkook looking toward the sunlight, one hand in his pocket, the other holding his phone loosely, his expression unreadable. That single photo became the symbol of the day, Jungkook's quiet return that carried more silence than explanation. Several airport staff later confirmed that Jungkook had arrived through a private terminal but chose to exit through the main gate instead. He didn't have to, one of them said softly, but he walked through the crowd. Maybe he wanted to see them, the fans. He looked tired but peaceful. Indeed, Jungkook's demeanor that day felt different. He wasn't in a rush. He wasn't hiding. He was present, not performing, just existing. The kind of presence that only someone who has learned to balance fame and solitude could exude. That stillness in his gaze hinted at something deeper, perhaps an inner dialogue only he understood to be why early evening, news outlets began running their own versions of the story. Some tabloids claimed Jungkook had returned from Los Angeles after a confidential recording project. Others connected dots to recent rumors about an upcoming surprise performance, while a few speculated he had taken a short personal break abroad. None of it was confirmed, but the mystery became the story itself. The uncertainty only fueled fascination. Meanwhile, fans gathered outside HYBE headquarters, hoping for a glimpse or confirmation. The company remained silent. No press release, no denial, just the usual calm void that surrounded every BTS-related rumor. But inside that silence there was always meaning. ARMY knew that too well. Later that night, a fan posted a short clip taken from a distance as Jungkook's van left the airport. Through the slightly tinted window, his silhouette could be seen resting against the seat, one hand propped under his chin, eyes fixed outside. The caption read simply, "He looked like he had something on his mind." That line alone gathered hundreds of thousands of likes. It wasn't just his return that intrigued people. It was his silence. Jungkook, known for sharing snippets of his life through live streams and short updates, had been unusually quiet for days. No messages, no new photos, nothing. For an artist whose connection with fans often came through those unfiltered moments, the absence felt louder than words. The mystery deepened the following morning when a few insiders hinted that Jungkook might have been working on a creative collaboration abroad. One source mentioned Europe again. Another spoke of a secret recording in LA. Both were unverifiable, yet believable. After all, Jungkook's artistry had always defied borders, but beyond speculation, what stayed with everyone was that single afternoon, the sunlight on polished airport floors, the brief smile behind his mask, the sound of his quiet footsteps echoing between camera flashes. It reminded people why he remained such an enigma. Approachable yet distant, expressive yet reserved, a man who could fill an entire room without saying a word. By the end of the day, ARMY timelines were flooded with messages of welcome. "Welcome home, Jungkook. We missed you. Take rest." The warmth of those words contrasted sharply with the frenzy that surrounded his arrival. Perhaps that was what he needed. Not answers, not questions, but the simple comfort of knowing he was seen, supported, and loved. Days passed, and the photos from that afternoon began circulating in magazines and media outlets worldwide. Analysts discussed his fashion choice, photographers debated about his expression, and fans continued to search for meaning in small gestures. But one detail consistently resurfaced. That subtle tan line, the sign that he had been somewhere brighter, somewhere far from Korea's autumn chill. One ARMY fan from Jeju even claimed she saw someone resembling Jungkook boarding a morning flight from Singapore 2 days earlier. Others dismissed it, but the timeline oddly fit. Could it be that Jungkook had been in Singapore quietly, perhaps for personal time or a private shoot? Again, no one could confirm, and perhaps that was precisely how he wanted it. The beauty of Jungkook's return was not in the noise it created, but in the calm it left behind. He appeared, he walked, he waved, and he disappeared, leaving the world wondering what story existed behind that silence. In an era of overexposure, his mystery became his strength. For the fans who were there, that day at Incheon would be remembered forever. The way the light fell on him, the slight wind that tugged at his hair, the way his shoes clicked softly against the marble floor. It was mundane yet magical, ordinary yet cinematic. A reminder that even without music or microphones, Jungkook could command the world's attention simply by being in the days that followed. Jungkook's name dominated entertainment headlines. Brands reposted his airport photos, praising his effortless style. Music journalists dissected his silence, wondering if it signaled a creative transformation or the calm before a new chapter. Every theory led to one truth: Jungkook's presence, even in stillness, carried movement. What no one saw, though, was what happened moments after his van disappeared from the airport. Inside the quiet interior, Jungkook finally removed his mask, resting his head against the window. The city passed by in streaks of gray and gold. His assistant asked softly, "Are you okay?" Jungkook nodded, eyes still fixed outside. "Yeah," he said quietly, almost to himself. It's good to be home." The words were simple, but they carried a weight, as if home wasn't just a place, but a moment of pause after running endlessly across continents and cameras. For someone like Jungkook, returning home wasn't just physical, it was emotional, spiritual. Incheon wasn't just an airport, it was the threshold between his public life and the solitude he rarely got to feel. By the time the van turned toward the expressway, the world had already decided its own versions of his story. But Jungkook wasn't reading them. He was watching the afternoon light fade into dusk, his phone still silent, notifications muted. Maybe tomorrow he'd speak. Maybe not. For now, silence was enough. And that was the quiet truth behind the storm of headlines. Jungkook didn't need to explain. His return spoke louder than words.